I am Denise Deming. We have conversations about wellness, about mental health, about coping with stress. And on today's program, we have Dr. Karrian Hepburn Malcolm with us. Welcome, Karrian, and tell us something about.
Thank you for having me, Denise. So I'm Jamaican, but I've lived in Trinidad for the last 11 years. And this year, I did a total switch of industries, so from banking and finance to media. So it's been an interesting ride.
So you've switched from banking and finance to media. How has the stress level changed?
Okay, so the first 2 months of the job, it was particularly stressful. While I think media naturally has a reservoir of stress, I think it was the change in the industry and the expectations and just trying to wrap my head around what I was accustomed to versus what this new industry did and what were the norms in the industry. So that adjustment period was particularly stressful for me, but I'm happy to say that I've come out on the other side 6 months in, and I've adapted, and I think I'm better able to deal with the stress that comes along because I know now what to expect.
Okay, so you're saying that as long as you have expectations, then you're able to manage it. So in terms of media, what are some typical stresses that a media person will go through?
All right. I think it varies depending on where in media you work, but certainly from where I sit, initially, one of the things that was new to me was that I was basically on call 24 hours a day because the news never stops, right? So depending on what was happening, I could get a phone call, an email, a WhatsApp, a text message from all kinds of stakeholders. So whether it's a staff, or somebody irate about an article that was published in the newspaper, or somebody wanting a press release. So it was numerous demands from numerous people and at numerous times of the day. I remember the first month just being shocked that I had to wait up to look at what the main story that would be published in the newspaper the following morning, including the cover. And there was a night when the Prime Minister had a press conference and it went up until very late. And so it means that I was up until like 11, just waiting to see what the story would look like. And so that was new, obviously new to me. So my sleeping pattern was disrupted. Mommyhood was disrupted because on days when I had to stay back, particularly late, depending on what was happening, or whether it's an event or something happening at the printing press, my son now had to adjust to like, Mommy, why are you coming home so late all the time? So as I said, the demands on your time is one, the high levels of exposure and scrutiny. So the product we produce is for public consumption, which is also means it's for public criticism. And I think we're more likely to get a call when something is bad as opposed to when something is good. So that too was different, getting criticism from all facets, all corners, all different levels, this was, why did you use this picture? Or this was grammatically incorrect, or, why did you take that angle with the story? So those things take, I think, an emotional, psychological, and a physical toll on you. And so that's a major stress I would describe, other than the usual stresses of, staff issues, or being short staffed because of COVID and quarantine, or having to readjust how we do things because of the health and safety regulations, and as we try to reintroduce people working in the office as opposed to at home full time. So there was quite a bit happening at the time when I joined.
So you joined at a really critical time because we've just come out of COVID. So there's a whole new culture change. People have got accustomed working at home and so on. But in your reflection on 11 years in Trinidad and comparing it with Jamaica, do you think that there's a difference in how Caribbean people treat with stress?
I would say yes. So in Jamaica, amongst my peers, we've often spoken about the fact that mental well-being, it's a taboo topic or diagnosis. Like if somebody says, oh, I went to speak to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a counselor, it's kind of like you start to watch them funny, like they're like the person is losing it. And similarly in the education system, we're not quick to diagnose children who have ADD, or children that might have certain learning disorders. They're quick to say, oh, you're dunce, or you don't take your schoolwork seriously or whatever. And I think we've come along, but I'm just saying, compared to certainly our North American counterparts, it seems like that kind of lens was adopted quicker there than in the Caribbean. Now there are all sorts of programs that have been developed and all sorts of ways of diagnosing, when children need a specific, learning assistance or learning program. And it's not that, oh, the child is not bright, And similarly, I think there is more open discussion about people being able to say, like, I'm not feeling well, meaning mentally, I'm not feeling well, I'm overwhelmed, or I need help. I need counseling, I need guidance, I need somebody to talk to, I need to vent, without being, ostracized or being looked on as weak or being looked on as crazy. I think we've come a long way, but I think that we have lots more progress to make.
What do you think is the role of the employer in helping people to maintain mental wellness?
As a critical stakeholder and benefits from the employees' well-being, time, effort, work. So they're vested, and so they should invest and ensure that the employee is able to operate optimally and at their best. And that's in every sense of the word. So that's physically, mentally, psychologically, and so on. And luckily, I've been able to see and participate firsthand, work at companies where an employee assistance program is a free benefit. So if you're going through something, it doesn't have to be work related. That you could go and speak to a psychologist or a counselor, and the employer is picking up the tab. So there are no constraints around you getting the help you may need.
Yeah. Karrian, what would be your personal suggestions to people to maintain their mental wellness?
One of my mentors, Sharon Christopher, shared an analogy with me recently, and I think it captured it perfectly. At the time as I told you, when I was making the transition and I was particularly stressed and stretched, she said to me, Karrian, remember, you can't give from an empty cup. She said, ensure that your cup is full so that you can give from the saucer, like you're abounding, you're overflowing. And the way that picture in my mind really helped me to figure out when I'm not at my best. Because sometimes you're like, you either through obligation, you feel like I have to do this, or I have to extend myself to this person, I have to do this project, when you're really depleted. Whenever I'm feeling stressed or stretched, I'm like, am I feeling full? Is my cup full? Do I have enough to give? Because the reality is, if I don't have enough to give and I give, I will be either giving it from a place of resentment, from bitterness, begrudgingly, and/or I probably won't give it my best. I won't be passionate about it. I'll just do it, as I said, out of obligation or out of pure torture. And that's really not how I think we should give. There might be certain extenuating circumstances where, obviously, if somebody's on the ground beside you, fainting, you're not going to be like, my cup is empty. No, but you may have a friend or an employee who wants to talk about something that's bothering you, and it will require a certain amount of emotional engagement. But I often think it's better to defer the conversation to a time when I know I can give my best, or give them 100%, or actually be present where I could listen to them and give them good advice. That's one piece of advice that has helped me over the last couple of months to assess whether something is urgent and where I have to absolutely pour from the empty cup, or whether I could afford myself the time to replenish mentally and emotionally and psychologically.
Karrian, are there any closing comments you wish to make?
Closing comments would be that remind all of us that we're human. And it's not to say human as in from a place of weakness, but it means that it is possible for us to be tired, for us to be suffering, be stressed. And so I think we need to learn to be kind to ourselves and understand our personal limitations. But I also think that we have to remember that there will always be things going on. So not be so self-focused we forget to help, those around us, whether it be our loved ones, our colleagues, or just other extended people in need. So to just kind of a bifocal approach. Yes, protect me, my space, my well-being, but also be in tune to those around us that are in dire need and need help or need an ear.
Caribbean Wellness. Thank you very much, Karrian. And we look forward to chatting with you again about mental wellness and where should employers be going. Caribbean Wellness. Like and share our post. Until next time.